I'm pleased to welcome to the program today Dave Kell, owner of Kahle Way Sales Systems. Dave, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here, Jeff.
Dave, we're going to talk about a sales strategy, as we always do. That's your
Mm,
expertise.
mm,
There's many strategies that salespeople can use.
hmm
One that you shared recently in a newsletter was about entertainment.
hmm
So, can you tell us a little bit about how salespeople can use entertainment as a strategy? Because that might be a head scratcher to some. Like, what types of entertainment opportunities?
hmm
How do I approach it?
hmm Yeah, it is. It is a head scratcher for a lot of people, which is why it's something that really people should look at these days. So, first of all, definition of entertaining. Entertaining is not taking, your good buddy to lunch every Tuesday. That's not entertaining. Entertaining is not bribery. Entertaining is not gifts. Entertaining is strategically spending time outside of the office with key people. That's the definition. So you intentionally and methodically arrange to spend time outside of the office with people who are strategically important in your territory.
Okay, so what are some pitfalls to this? What could happen that could backfire on you?
Well, people could not show up. If I mean that's the worst thing. If you go to all the trouble to arrange for an event or something like that and nobody shows, that would be the worst. Honestly, I have entertained in my lifetime, entertained quite frequently, and I don't know that I could point to a negative. Interesting question. I don't think I could point to a question. Lots of positives. I mean, it was such a big part of my practice as a salesperson that I mean I would arrange months ahead of time for lots of different events. Had a thing I did every summer. Was in the city of Detroit, and I would do baseball outings. I would take we worked out a formula, so it'd be dinner at Greektown, if you know Detroit, Greektown, and a Tiger game, and I would always take six people. This is a thing that I learned is you always entertain with your spouse or significant other and a couple of couples. And the couples were primarily really highly important customers. Then there were two rules, and I recommend these two rules to everybody. Number one is I foot the bill. Number one. Number two is we don't talk business. That's it. Let's go
That's
have a good
interesting.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you're there
And
for business.
well, you're there. What you're there for is to create relationships that make business easier. And I've got lots of stories. Let me share the one how I got a $2 million account. Two
Now, is
million
this going
dollars,
to
yeah.
involve a Super Bowl?
No, but close.
Okay, tell us about your $2 million account.
Okay, so I had a big, and again, I recommend you entertain strategically, which means the highest potential people in your territory. Okay, so I had a big potential account, which I could get nowhere in, a year or so, I just couldn't nowhere in. And the reason I could get nowhere is the head of purchasing, who I remembered clearly. Her name was Linda, middle-aged woman, lady, and she didn't like me. And frankly, I didn't care much for Linda. But that was beside the point. The point is she didn't like me. So anyway, my company had been a company in West Michigan. They bought a smaller company in the Detroit area, and that became their Detroit branch. And when they bought that territory, they got all the assets of that company. And one of the assets was six season tickets to the University of Michigan football games. And I like to tell people, just to appreciate how rare that is, you in your entire lifetime will never, ever meet anyone who has six season tickets to the U of M football games. It's just incredibly rare thing. So anyway, the boss used it most of the time, but sometimes salespeople got to use it. So it's my turn. I got six season tickets to a U of M football game. So I thought I'm going to be strategic. Who's the most important person in my territory? Linda. And this, by the way, is why I always entertain with spouses, because so I called Linda and said, would you and your husband be the guests of myself and my wife at the U of M game coming up, a couple of weeks? And I know, I told her the details, and I know that if it was just me inviting her, she would not go because she didn't like me. But it was her husband's maybe once in a lifetime opportunity. So she said yes, and I got another customer and a spouse. So there were six of us, myself, my wife, and we did it up right, with a fried chicken tailgate. The whole thing was like maybe 6 hours altogether. And I remember, honestly, I forget who they played, but I remember it was a glorious fall day in Michigan. 106,000 people, blue skies, sunny, and they were playing somebody like Notre Dame, something like that. I honestly forget. Yeah, and we all had a great time. And that was it. Two rules. I'm paying for the whole thing, and nobody talks business. But we got along, and Linda made the acquaintance of my wife. She enjoyed her a lot, and it just became the relationship just turned on a dime. And next time I saw Linda, she had a pile of papers, things for me to take care of and do, and so on. Dave, this department is looking for this. Can you handle it? And by the way, whoever this is coming up to bid, I'd like to hear what you're going to do. Just waiting for me. And it changed everything. And a year and a half later, I was doing $2 million in an account at zero. And I attribute that to that Saturday afternoon in Ann Arbor. Changed everything. And that's a good example. What I mean by entertaining strategically, you're investing money in a relationship. Invest money wisely in relationships that you feel have the potential to bring that money back and return on investment.
Fantastic story.
Yeah.
Was the fried chicken good?
Yeah. My wife's a gourmet cook. Of course it was. So, here's another one. You never know. And I really have some great entertaining stories, but you never know just what you're going to do. So here was one. One of my accounts, good size account, where I really struggling to get into. The materials manager was a rough, ornery, irritable old guy named Bob. Nobody liked Bob. He didn't like anybody. But it was time for a baseball outing, and I got this, I got a place left. So I thought, who's strategically important? Bob. So I called Bob, said, would you and your wife be my guest? And so on. Okay, so they did. And we had a nice time, dinner at Greektown, baseball game. For some reason, the game got over early that night. I don't know, 9 o'clock or something like that. And we're breaking up to go. And Bob said, gee, it's awfully early. I hate to go home this early. And I said, well, let's just go over here in the Warehouse District of Detroit. There was a place called the Woodbridge Tavern. Fun place with guys, big cigars, playing washboards and peanut shells on the floor and all that. So anyway, we did that. Another hour, had a beer or two. Okay, now it really is time to leave. So my wife and I are walking Bob and his wife out to the car. They're parked in the street, parallel park in the street. So I walk him up to the car, and Bob goes around to get in the passenger or the driver's side, and I open the door for his wife. His wife starts to slide in, stops, comes back up. She is sobbing, tears coming down her eyes. She hugs me, sobbing, says, I just want to thank you. No one has ever done this for him before. It means so much to me. Thank you. I thought it was a baseball game. Here it was, something far greater. And I will tell you, this like within a year, I just absolutely owned that account. I mean, they wouldn't buy anything unless they asked me if it was okay. That's a little bit of exaggeration, but really, truly, in terms of penetration, there was no account I had penetrated further because no one else took the time to get to know Bob and spend time with him outside of the office.
That account paid off because Bob's wife probably told him, you better do business.
Well, that's one reason why I always worked together. I always brought spouses because often their spouse wouldn't let them do anything else.
Mhm.
You know,
Dave, what you described there is showing personal interest in people. It's
yeah,
about people.
mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they're entertaining today. If you is a higher order skill. It's something that a lot of salespeople would be hesitant for whatever reasons. You got to invest. It's an investment. So So you have to feel you're investing correctly, and it puts you a little bit on the spot because you're the host. You're gonna be spending now, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours with your customers in a situation that you're not particularly comfortable with. So a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And I understand that. It's a higher order skill, but those salespeople who do it almost always are rewarded, dramatically rewarded.
Yeah. And that's the key,
Yeah.
what you can get from the effort. But you have to be genuine as well. And I think
Yes.
you were. That's how
Yeah.
why it worked for you.
Yeah. And I think particularly today, there was a time when entertaining was, and I'm talking, 40 years ago, entertaining was far more was what was done. I remember I had in the city of Detroit, I had a friend who was a representative to the automobile industry. He had one account, which is not unusual, it was General Motors, and he had an entertaining budget. And this is in the 1980s. He had an entertaining budget, and this was not you can't spend more than it is you must spend at least $80,000 to entertain for the year for General Motors. And it was probably twice that now. So in those, I mean, that was how business was done, and then it sort of lost its glitter. But now I think it's time for entertaining, getting to know your customers outside of the office to make a comeback. And I'll tell you, it's bigger than just money. It's I think in today's world, people are overwhelmed. They're distracted. They have too many things to do, not enough time in which to do it. They're looking for shortcuts, and a relationship is a shortcut. A relationship makes things simpler. See, if there's someone you trust, then you don't have to do all the due diligence. You can just delegate to them. You just download it to them. Download this contract, download this because I trust this person. So relationship entertaining builds relationships. Relationships build trust. Trust is what operates in today's world. There's a hunger for people to have people they trust.
Good perspectives from Dave Kell. Appreciate you. Thank you for this.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.